Welcome to the ERpodcast with Naz and X. On today's cast, we're going to talk about Tom Clancys Division debacle all the way to our favorite game of 2015.
Okay, so I was reading about the Division Alpha. It might have been pre-beta that just came out that people are playing, and apparently the graphics are absolute trash on pretty much everything. PC being a lot better, obviously.
So, are they trash as in comparison to other video games, or are they trash in comparison to what we saw at E3 last year?
Well, what we saw at E3 was, I feel, what do they call that? It's like clickbaity. It was kind of one of those things where it's like, look how special it is. It's not really going to look like this, but you're going to get hyped about it.
You mean where the guy's playing with an Xbox controller and there's a PC running it behind the screen?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, right.
But
Well, that happened with Watch Dogs. I remember saying Watch Dogs in what, E3 2012?
It's exactly like Watch Dogs. That's exactly what's happening here. Is the whole Watch Dogs.
The hype
issue.
train was huge, and then it came out, and people were like, "Oh, this fucking sucks. Never mind.
Oh, sure.
It doesn't look or play anything like what we saw at E3. What the fuck?"
I remember
behind
seeing
Tom Clancy?
No, that's Ubisoft.
Ubisoft. Okay.
So I remember seeing Watch Dogs, and it's the scene where he's like walking by the cash register, the ATM outside when it's raining, and I remember being absolutely blown away by everything I saw. And then the game was just kind of like GTA Light. It didn't look the same. There was some cool stuff about the wind and like the way like trash moved around, but that was about it. And they had cut it down.
I thought the reflections in Watch Dogs was superior to GTA's, but I hadn't played GTA 5's PC version yet, so maybe that'd be why. Maybe if we put them side by side on the PC at this point, you could see. But yeah, I mean, I still thought Watch Dogs looked good. I didn't really understand the outcries about it being shit. But now, that we've talked about it and then, go back and play it, it's definitely not what was shown. And you think Tom Clancy's falling in the same fate? It's, it's just overhyped and overpromised and it's going to be a pile of shit, or what?
I don't think it's going to be a pile of shit. I enjoyed Watch Dogs. I like that whole idea of the underground hacker community and this kind of stuff, and in a kind of futuristic, Chicago. I think it was Chicago, yeah.
Division, yeah.
No. Division's New York City.
Watch Dogs.
Watch Dogs.
Division's New York.
Yeah. I really like the idea, and I thought the game was really fun. I just was really let down by the graphics, and I see that happening in the Division. Not as bad as far as what I've seen for the alpha stuff, and it is alpha footage, so it could very well be better, but it doesn't bode well considering they did the same thing for Watch Dogs, and that's just basically what I'm comparing it to.
Right.
It looks really good. The PC version looks miles ahead of the console version, and I think that's because of Watch Dogs and the blowback they had about the fact that the files were sitting in the game. They just couldn't be unlocked. And so I think they've kind of learned their lesson, and that it's going to look a lot better on PC. But what they were promising for PS4 and Xbox One doesn't look like it's going to come as close. However, there were some 4K pictures released for the PS4 version, and it looks really good. But
so you mentioning the PS4 version, I'm pretty sure I came across an article, I think maybe on, I don't remember which site, but it was that and I think it was concerning Division, that the Xbox One has yet to be able to run it playable. It can't run it well enough to be considered playable, which, as far as I remember, a playable game is 30 frames a second with a certain response time, etc. I read that the Xbox can't even do that with Division yet.
For me, and I feel like for console gamers, PC has kind of come to expect that 60 frames is what you shoot for, and as it's really only limited to what your gear is. But
I'm talking about this, the studios, the ESA's responsibility to be this is considered a playable game.
I could have sworn, well, they don't really have any input. I mean, there's games that are released that have 15, frames, and it's oh, this game's a pile of shit. However, I feel I think they were saying that they wanted to get it to 60, but I think that 60 FPS is just not going to happen in an open world game, not with the new consoles. I think PS4 can get more out of it, but I think they still lock it to 30 because it's just easier to put both 30 and not have like the bickering and fighting between which is better, the Xbox One or the PS4. And so I think a lot of companies, why they could squeeze more juice out of the PS4 for whatever reason. I don't know the background behind making a game, but it always seems like the PS4 always has like a little bit of an edge over the Xbox One.
Right.
But as far as they're concerned, like they want to hit 30 frames, but they don't have to. But it's kind of something that's come to expect. Like 30 frames should be the absolute minimum that the Xbox One should be able to play, and especially with open world games like Grand Theft Auto, for example. When it released on the Xbox 360, I had a blast with it, but it dropped down into the tens for frame rate. I still had a blast with it, and then I bought it for the PS4, and it's a lot smoother. It still has some frame rate drops, but it looks a lot better, and it's just a lot smoother running game. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot better for that.
The PS4 version of GTA, and play that, and then switch over to your 360, and you're gonna be like, this shit is unplayable.
Yeah, I would definitely.
Like, once you've done it,
definitely,
and I think. Even though like 30 frames per second is the bare minimum, quote unquote, that console publishers are going for, when you say PC gamers have come to expect 60 frames or bust, essentially, how long can that possibly last for the console gamers that, they're going to realize, hey, our systems, I'm paying, upwards of 300. What was PlayStation at release? 450, and Xbox was 450 or $500. They're paying that amount of money at release and saying, well, this system's only going to play it, at a mediocre 25 to 45 frames, where I can see frame drop, but my buddy's over here on his, computer, and he's playing it at 60 frames with no problem. Like, what the fuck? How long do you think that's going to last before the acceptable 30 frames is no longer acceptable, and people are going to go, well, I'm going to, either switch consoles because the PS4 is doing better and it just seems to be, running games smoother, or fuck this, I'm going to buy a PC, or I'm going to buy a gaming laptop, and I'm not going to waste my time.
It's hard to tell. I mean, look at the PS4 sales numbers. I mean, they're ahead, I believe, of what PS2 was doing at the same time, and that's noted as like one of the best-selling consoles ever. I think that a lot of people are going to, and I do it. I've started doing it now that I've built my better rig, but I look for games. 30 frames is what I stand by. If it can't hit 30 frames solidly without any dips, I don't want to play it. I think that should be the bare minimum if you can't get that out of your thing. But I think people buy consoles for A, the simplicity, and B,
let me just stop you right there real quick. You mentioned the PlayStation 4 being Sony's most popular console. I just looked it up real quick while we're chatting, and it's from the Daily Mail. PlayStation 4 is Sony's most popular PlayStation console ever. Official sales figures reveal 30 million have been sold worldwide, and that was as of January 2016.
Yeah.
So, I didn't mean to drop, but it is the most successful Sony console ever produced at this point.
Right. And
I believe the most successful prior to that was the Wii, and then prior to that was the PS2.
Right. I think people are going to either get smarter with their money or come to terms with the fact that if you're buying a console, you're buying a locked box. And I think that's what's happened now is people have come to the point where if you're going to play console and you're either on a budget or you're just not into the PC thing or whatever the case may be, you've come to expect certain things. Like you want it to have, chat, you want it to have internet capabilities, maybe Blu-ray, which I feel is like the industry standard now is Blu-ray. You want it to basically do everything that the previous generations have done as far as the capabilities of it, while also including maybe something more. Nintendo being the exception to that rule, because they seem to be changing their brand every time a new console comes out, except for the Wii U, which is just basically Wii with HD, but and their pad, of course. But
you gotta admit the Wii U's game lineup is pretty awesome. They have just
I
AAAs that come out, and they're just solid standbys. Zelda, Smash, Kart, Mario, they just have them. And the other guys just can't get their hands on them, and they just have them.
Nintendo's like one of those game companies that they just, I don't know. People are buying those games because they don't care about Call of Duty. They don't care about really any of the other mainstream games, like such as like Demon Souls or Dark Souls or shooter games and stuff like that. They want to play party games. They want to play the Mario parties. They want to play Mario Super Smash Brothers. They want to play Mario Kart, the Zeldas, stuff like that. People look for those games, and that's why they buy Nintendo. And I feel like it's multiple things for Nintendo. You've got the kid platform, and I say that carefully because I know they have adult games like Bayonetta 2 and stuff like that. And they do have Call of Duty on there as well. But let's face it, nobody's playing Call of Duty on the Wii.
No, nobody's done. I think we're getting a little bit off topic. We started comparing consoles when what brought this all along was The Division. The game that you and I have both been looking forward to since we saw it at E3 last year.
Right.
It's been almost a year. We're gearing up to start getting our tickets to go back to LA. The Division was something that I remember watching and seeing and said, "Oh my god, this game is going to be fucking tits." It's going to be what we've wanted out of all those zombie horror survival co-ops,
right.
Except for it's going to be fucking awesome.
I remember having
it's
tears.
It's not going to be that way.
Not tears, but I remember having just a joyous feeling in my stomach because I love that like post-apocalyptic. Not so much zombies. I'm kind of done with the zombie genre for now.
Don't say that. Don't say. Don't say that. Zombies rule.
Sorry.
Yeah. Don't say that.
But I mean, I love that post-apocalyptic, these people are here to clean up shit, and they're here to stop the madness. I love that feeling of us against the world. Dying Light is a perfect example of that. Just that feeling of us against the world. And when I saw Division, I was absolutely blown away. I was like, oh sweet. So it's squad combat. The lighting was awesome when they're going into the police station and that guy's on the roof and they light the roof, and the guy that's playing on his iPad or whatever, he comes in and he uses the drone and shoots up that sign, and the light rays are coming through the bolt holes and you can see the guy moving around behind it. I was absolutely blown away because this is immersion for me. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen, and to see a lot of that taken away bums me out because that's what I was excited for. Like the smoke effects. I don't see the smoke effects like I did see in the E3 reveal. I don't see that.
When you
the
told
steam
me about
pipe.
this Division debacle issue happening, that was when I first went. As I went and looked up the most recent, alpha or AB trailer, and that's what I noticed was like sun shafts, light shafts, particles. That has been stripped. Granted, I just played the beta last week of Paragon, the new MOBA. And it blatantly tells you at the beginning, this game looks like shit on purpose because we're not done building it. So maybe give Tom Clancys Division a little leeway because it is not finished.
I'm not calling it. I'm not calling it
all that
until.
away.
I'm not calling it until I get my hands on the beta that comes out here. I think it's coming out
February.
I want to say February. I could be wrong, but it's coming out soon.
Yeah. That's going to be a multi-platform, or is it just PS4
it's anybody who pre-ordered got the beta as long as you did the code. I don't know. My GameStop gave me the code on a receipt.
Okay.
So I'm gonna hold off and not cancel my pre-order and start shitting on it just yet. But from what I've seen, it worries me because I feel like I'm getting sucked into the same trap that Watch Dogs was. And I understand the limitations of my console, and I just prefer playing on it, but I understand the limitations of my console, and I understand that some of those things are just not going to be in the game for whatever reason. But I do expect some looking, at least, of what it is. But
right. I mean, obviously you would expect something. You see that, I think what's E3, the second biggest video game trade show in the world besides TGS. So you see it there, and it's like, okay, this is what I want. I'm going to dedicate my $60 to this product, and then you get it, and it comes out, and it's a piece of shit, or it's not what they promised, or whatever. And unfortunately, that happens in the gaming industry all the time. It happens in other industries too. It's just prevalent in this one because it seemed up until recently, maybe within just the last year or two, Backlash didn't mean anything. They brought their game out, they sold it, and then okay, it sucks, too bad. Right. Now people are so cautious, especially with like the Steam Greenlight.
Well, it's expensive.
Stuff like that.
It's just expensive. Yeah. $60 for a game that turns out to be a pile of shit is not acceptable. And people are starting to realize that. Instead of just eating their money and being like, okay, well, I bought a shitty game, it's now like, well, why is your game shitty? Okay, well, is the game shitty because you didn't like the story, or is the game shitty because it literally doesn't work?
Right. Oh, there's a big difference. Fallout 4, I think, got Game of the Year like 5 billion times. I played it for 15 hours. Not a fan. Right. Huge Fallout fan. There's a Nuka-Cola bottle sitting on my desk as we speak. Fallout 4 didn't do it for me. It's not a bad game. It just wasn't my thing. So there is you're correct. There is a big difference between, was it shitty because you just didn't like it, or was it actually shitty? I guess we're just gonna have to.
I think it's just. I don't know. I think the Division's going to be cool. From what I understand of what the YouTubers that have been allowed to release some footage and stuff, they say it's really fun. They say it's still a really good game, and it's still got a lot of the things that we saw in the E3 beta. It's just the graphical thing kind of let me down.
Right. I have one last question on the Tom Clancy before we move on. Well, two. In the stuff that you watched, that you've experienced recently with what's going on with this game, did they mention, reveal, or notate anything about adversarial multiplayer, or is it all co-op versus environment?
From what I saw, some of it is, it looks like arena-based. Mm-hmm. I could be completely wrong. But from what I saw,
gonna do it for me is like the open world, you and me and a couple of the other guys.
It's supposedly still open world. You will still encounter other mobs of other real players, and you're shooting for. It kind of plays off like a third-person Gears of War that is based on a point system. So if you're shooting at a guy and your gun does 50 points of damage, it's 50 points of damage per each thing. So if he's got 350 health, you know what I mean? Like it plays out just like an MMO would, but it plays like Gears of War. It's a very cover shooter.
Cover shooter that's gear dependent.
Yes, exactly.
Essentially.
Exactly.
Okay. And then the last bit of info on this one that I've got is, while this may be a huge debacle, can we all just switch over and look at Ghost Recon for one hot second? Because that game looks fucking phenomenal.
Oh, Ghost Recon's looking absolutely incredible.
And that is 100% open world. I don't think
correct.
There's adversarial, but it's 4-player co-op. Do the missions, and as far as I read and watched, you'll get a mission, you and your 3 mates are ready to go, and it'll say, hey, we've got to steal this blueprint, assassinate this fucktard, and then move on here. And that's just it. They just plunk you somewhere, and you figure it out.
Yeah. Essentially...
And that sounds incredible.
You're like part of a drug task force that's working in Mexico trying to take out the drug cartel. Mm-hmm. And you're just dropped in there, and you can go in guns blazing. You can do night missions. You can scope it out from the mountains and look to see how the guards walk around and stuff like that, and plan the best attack you can. But it's all up to you, and it's all open world. From what I've been seeing, it looks really good. The gameplay has not changed since they announced that, because they announced that, I believe, with the Division. I think that was the two things that the Division and Siege were all three released at the same time, or announced at the same time.
Announced at the same time, right. Even if Division becomes something lackluster or failure, I still have my hopes up for the Ghost Recon, because that one looks like a lot of fun, a lot of co-op fun.
Right.
So, speaking of, we were talking about different consoles and different PCs and stuff, not to get into the components too much, but the Oculus Rift, as of now, it is pre-orderable.
Is it not
I mean, I
purchasable
think it was
yet? I thought it's purchasable.
no,
I thought
no,
you could buy it.
Can you buy? Oh, I might be
I think you could buy
confused.
it
Okay, well, either way, it's available in some form
now. It's coming.
as of now.
Right.
So, what do you think about the Oculus Rift and
So
like the whole VR gaming? Because
you
I got
got-
my own opinions on it, but what are you thinking?
You
And
got-
just real quick, it is pre-order. I'm looking on there.
Is it
Their site
pre-ordered?
Right now. It's
Okay.
Pre-order, one per customer, $599 US.
See, I think that price point, if what Microsoft is doing and what Sony is doing comes anything underneath that, the Oculus Rift is dead. I fully believe that it's too gimmicky for PC players, not without the full setup. Now, if you had the Oculus Rift with the Omnimill, with whatever gun they use to move around, I don't know the technicals behind it, but with those three things, because a PC is pretty much the only way you can do that, it'll change. But as far as just the headset being $600, that's a hefty price to pay for something that isn't really backed right now.
Well, I would say it's not backed. It's definitely backed, but from just what you've said, without getting the gun peripheral, for the Omnimill, the standard Oculus VR headset, I mean, you're looking over $1,400 from
Right.
what I'm seeing
And
right here.
that might be worth it later. You know what I mean?
I think that's going to fit into the enthusiast category at the moment. It's not something I will purchase. I mean, I have a full-time job, and that's still too expensive. I'm not going to drop $1,400 on something,
right.
That's not necessarily unproven, but it's a peripheral.
Right.
And what that makes me think of, even though this is, different, it makes me think of the little steering wheels and little guns you could get for your Wii when that was the big thing.
Right.
And it's like those are in bargain bins for 99 cents now. Oculus is obviously different, but if you wanted the full experience like we saw at E3, where you get in the Omnimill with the shoes, with the headset, with the gun, I mean, you're probably going to be sniffing close to that $2,000 mark, all said and done. Not even counting the computer you're going to have to run said games.
Correct.
I mean, so I think it's going to fit into the enthusiast category. I know I'm going to get so much shit for this. I don't think it's going to take off. I think it's going to be a big time thing for the next year, maybe two. We're going to see it at E3. TGS is going to obviously have it. CES is going to bring a lot of it, and it's going to dwindle down once people realize, fuck, I got to spend $2,500 to even get into this shit.
I'm scared that it's going to turn into what 3D turned into. It's kind of gimmicky. It's not really. A lot of people are having issue with it. I wear glasses, so watching 3D to me just doesn't work. I have to wear double glass. It looks stupid. I don't like it. Gives me headaches, makes me pukey. It happens to a lot of other people. I think it's just gimmicky. I don't know. I think I watched some stuff since I'm kind of a Sony fanboy. I watched some stuff on the what do they call it? Their VR headset. And from what I was seeing, there was a scene. It was called The Getaway something Britain or something like that. I know that sounds really unprofessional, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. But it was It was basically this guy had this headset on and he was playing the game and it was connected to a TV, so everybody watching him play could see what he was looking at. And there's two guys in a carrier van, and they were fighting other people that were driving by trying to blow up the van. And everything he did with the PlayStation Move controllers, everything he did correlated to how you would move in real life. So, if he turned his head and leaned forward, he was looking out the window. And, literally looking down the side of the van. And he, at one point, one of the guys hey, there's extra clips in the glove box. He reaches out and he presses a button and it opens the glove box. And then he grabs the clip and then he takes it. And you have to, put the Move controllers together to put the clip in the gun. And then he's got the gun and then he's pointing the Move controllers back and forth and back and forth. And why it looks goofy to outside players, if I had the headset on and I couldn't see what was in my hands, I just knew this is how I operate this thing, it would be so immersive and so cool feeling that I feel like that's the
Oh,
future. That's why I think Oculus still has a chance, because that's what it's starting to go to. And I
no
think
doubt that it's immersive. Like, I'm not trying to argue that point. I mean, from what I saw and what we did play at E3, it's obviously that immersion is real, and it's really going to be there for the people that want it. One thing that does scare me about it, not only the price point, because you can obviously, people have money, sure, and then people who don't have money can save it up and get it anyways, is what you just mentioned of that, the getaway thing that guy played, or that you watched him play. I feel like that is going to become, what's the best way to say this, a tyrant of this class of gaming, because you're going to get a lot of, I hate to use the word shareware or freeware, but that's going to be what people, I think, are going to be purchasing it, because the majority of the gaming population isn't necessarily going to have an Omni-Mill in the corner of their bedroom with an Oculus Rift and a rifle. They're going to have a computer
right,
like me, or they're going to have a
right.
PlayStation like you. So Battlefield 6 comes out, and they're going to go, well, we're going to make a regular video game for everyone to play, so 10 million people buy it. And then, we'll maybe put in a little bit of Oculus stuff. I don't really know. Fuck it.
I just
And then,
see.
so, I feel like the big companies are going to do that, and you might have some indie titles that will do just Oculus stuff. But you can have a lot of those, like, one-shot, one-off experiences, like, do the bank robbery, or ride a jet ski in Hawaii. And they're, it feels gimmicky to me. Even though the technology is there, it's very expensive. I feel like the software to it is going to be shit.
I get the gimmicky feeling, but I see. I don't know. It's one of those things. I hate to bring this movie up because it's a giant pile of shit, but Pierce Brosnan's in it, which is Lawnmower Man. And in Lawnmower Man, he wears like this headset, and it's all terrible, terrible graphics and stuff. And it was supposed to be like the new, what you call it, the new virtual reality. And
right.
that was in the 90s. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking that, when I was a kid, I was like, God, that'd be so cool to have. And I think a lot of other people are thinking that. So I think that now that it's capable of having, not life graphics, but at least reasonable enough to be like, okay, that is a human and not just a bunch of polygons. This is, I think it has a chance of working. I say it has a chance of working. I do agree that it can come off gimmicky, and if it's anything like the Wii, it might have an issue. But I think that if done correctly and the price point is there, that it could march another type of gaming, which is just, that virtual everybody in. But there's also a lot of things like it hasn't been mass marketed. You know what I mean? What happens when a million people get their hands on this thing, and half of those people are puking because they can't stand the thing being on their heads? What happens then?
Right.
Well, then it just falls on its face. So it's
there really hasn't been any mass marketing like on a scale. You watch any sort of sporting event or any of that Fox movie shit. One of the commercials in there is going to be for an Xbox One or a PlayStation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you won't see an Oculus Rift. I do think, though, actually, now that I think about it, the Sony one, whatever the name is of that one that they're making, I do think it might have been on Twitch or something. I saw an ad, which doesn't really count, but they are doing advertising. But yeah, you're not going to see an Oculus Rift ad on any mainstream cable or anything.
No. I don't think it's going to end consoles. I don't think it's going to
I don't think it's going to end either.
PC. I don't think it's going to crack into that market. I think it's a new market entirely. And depending on how they market it and how they make it sound and make it appealing to people that are on the edge, such as you or many other people that are kind of like, well, I don't know if I really want to spend $600 for a setup. It really comes down to marketing at that point. Marketing, what kind of games are out there. We had the same problem. Everybody was we. When I was working in the game stores, and I was working when the Wii came out, I remember this guy, one or two people would come into the store every day checking on Wii's. Every morning checking on Wii's, calling in.
Right.
And I mean, that was, God, I want to say like a solid year of that, of just not being able to find any because there were so many people were buying them. And then it kind of fizzled out once people realized that all you have is Mario, all you have is this. You only
then
have
the
this
everything else
select
was
thing,
that shareware
and everything
shit.
is shovelware, copies of games, like M&M's Olympics and stuff like that. It's like nobody wants to play that. Somebody might
Yeah.
pick it up for $2 for their 5-year-old kid that doesn't care. He just wants to smash the TV with his Wiimote.
Right.
But
Right.
but other than that, and I feel like the Oculus Rift and those VR things could possibly go that way. However, now there's major corporations, backing these things. So it might be a little different because there's a lot of the tech world getting involved as well. And with that kind of backing, it's kind of hard to fail. But you never know. I mean, VR has been tried and tried and tried multiple times. Even the Genesis had VR with that stupid ass ring that never worked. Um, it's hard to say. It's like light guns. You know what I mean? I thought light
Right.
guns when I was a kid. I thought light
Had
guns
the
were going to
force
be
feedback
Oh,
Time
sure.
Crisis 2 gun
Sure.
on the PlayStation. That shit was awesome.
And you'll never see them again outside of arcades, which that in itself.
I
is
still
probably
want a
going
Time
bye-bye.
Crisis 2 pedal action blowback set.
Sure.
I wonder how much those are.
So given that we're working into the new year, and E3 is quickly approaching us, even though it's like 6 months away, it's to me that's like tomorrow. So I'm just gonna sleep through 6 months. What would you say for 2015? Because there's a lot of stuff that dropped this year, and a lot of good quality games. I feel. What would you say is your best, or is the best game that has released for 2015?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think most people are going to instantly jump onto the Fallout 4 wagon. I mean, and I know I mentioned it earlier. I did like the game a lot. It just wasn't. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've kind of grown out of that type of game because I need to work all the time or whatever. I think a lot of people are going to jump on that Fallout 4. I think the other one that was either won more awards or was the contender for Game of the Year was The Witcher 3. And Phantom Pain. I think, I liked all three of those. The best indie I think that I've played so far was Ori and the Blind Forest. You can pick it up on Steam for like $10. It's incredible. Honestly, my favorite was probably Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain. And a close second, even though I haven't got to play it yet, I only watched you play it, was Bloodborne. I think besides the MMOs I'm continuously playing like a crackhead, was probably Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain for me.
It's hard
about
to really like. I don't know. I it's a question I ask people all the time, and people are like, "Well, I like this." I think it's hard nowadays because there's so many good things coming out. I feel like I don't know. Maybe I just never noticed it as a kid, and I keep on because when I was a kid, I had 5 games, and I played those 5 games over and over and over again. And I might have gotten a new game for Christmas, and I might have gotten a new game for my birthday. But other than that, I really didn't get any games. So, now that I'm adult and there's so many different games, like I bought Rainbow Six Siege. I thought that game was absolutely incredible. I love it. I play it all the time. I think it's really, really fun. It does have a couple problems, but I think it's one of the best. I'll put it up there with like one of the best games of 2015. I think it's really good.
Okay.
As far as the console, and I know the PC one, just cracking that market is really hard. So I'm just gonna say for the console community, it's a really fun game, and it's a game that has a lot of players still playing. Game that I've heard a lot of back and forth. I've heard a lot of people being like, no, it doesn't have a lot of people talking to, oh, no, it's got a lot of people talking on it. I have added more people on my friends list from that game than I have in any other game, I'd say, in the last 5 years. And to me, that means something. To me, that means I'm
Right.
finding a community that actually cares about playing with other people and not being shitheads. And to me, that makes a game.
And not just trying to run around and knife everybody like a
I'm
retard.
I'm so tired of playing Call of Duty because it's just nothing but kids screaming and oh, look at my kill death score. Nobody wants to work together. But I mean that's one thing, and I feel like a Game of the Year award. That's why there's so many now. It's not just one game because you've got RPGs. The Witcher was incredible. Fallout 4. I liked Fallout 4, but I petered out a lot quicker than I did for like Fallout 3 or New Vegas. I played them a lot more than I did Fallout 4.
That's kind of what I was looking to say earlier. Fallout 3, I remember putting well over 100 hours into it, completing it, saving it right before you finish, going around and doing all this stuff. And that's why Fallout 4, I got picked up the Nuka-Cola, I've got the poster, got everything ready to go. Release day came, played it for 2 days, didn't really give a shit to play it again. Petered out. That's the best way to put it. So so for your game of the year, your favorite game of 2015 is the Rainbow Six, Tom Clancys Rainbow Six.
Yeah. I really like Just Cause as well. Just Cause 3.
Just Cause 3.
But I would say it's a really good game. I wouldn't say it's a game of the year or anything like that. I would just say it's a really good game.
It's just a good game.
Yeah,
that's where that's where I'm sitting with Witcher and Fallout. They're good games. Witcher is incredible. It's just was my favorite, but my favorite's the Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain. Played it on Xbox One and PlayStation 4, both of them. Enjoyed it immensely.
I would say Metal Gear Solid, but I say the stigma with Kojima leaving and getting fired and all that crap that came with what Konami did. I feel like with that stigma, a lot of people didn't want to play. It was one of the things for me. I didn't want to play it because I felt that he had been cheated. I felt like that's his baby, and I felt like they're just doing a cash grab. They've already came out and said that they want to do another Metal Gear, that they own the rights for it, and blah, 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 blah. And, I don't know.
If they try to make another Metal Gear without Kojima, it's A, going to be shit. B, it's going to be shit. And C, no one's going to buy it because it's shit. Kojima's what makes those games.
Right.
Plain and simple.
This might sound like, I don't know, this might sound ignorant because I don't actually know. But the Metal Gear, the one with Raiden, where it's like a hack and slash.
Revengeance?
Was it Revengeance?
Something like that. Yeah.
Kojima had nothing to do with that, right?
I don't know.
Maybe
Metal Gear Rising.
Metal Gear Rising. That's the one. Metal Gear Rising.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Rising Revengeance.
Yeah.
Rising Revengeance.
Right.
It was obviously by Konami. I'm just gonna double check here and see if it was.
But
Kojima production.
I don't know. So it was a Kojima production. See.
Which, to be honest, I enjoyed that game. I got it on Amazon.
I thought it was okay.
It's not like a regular Metal Gear. I mean, the story and the bad guys and the end, that type of stuff, and Raiden, that's all screams Kojima.
Right.
But it's an action slasher thing, which is fine. They made that Metal Gear that was for the PSP. That was basically a card battle game.
Oh God, Acid.
I'm not
Metal Gear Acid.
Yeah, Metal Gear Acid. I'm not a fan of card battle games.
Acid 2. There's 2 of them.
That's just, some people really liked it. So not that they're all like the best thing ever, but I feel like if they make a Metal Gear without Kojima, that it's gonna just lack that crazy story or those incredible characters or the lore and the history. It's just gonna miss that.
I will say this year has been, or last year now, 2015 has been one of the biggest remake years. There was a lot of remasters. There was a lot of that kind of stuff being released, and
I'll say HD updates and stuff.
The HD and this special this. I love the Uncharted series and bought the Uncharted HD collection. I kind of feel responsible because I'm one of those people that's like, another remaster. I just want another game. I don't want to play the same game in better graphics. But at the same time, I go out and buy the remasters because I want to play the remasters. The Last of Us is a perfect example. I've bought that game 4 times. I love that game. I think it's incredible. And, what I really want is The Last of Us 2. But I'm going to buy the remasters because I'm dumb. But I feel like...
You're not dumb. You just want to experience the game again.
Right. And so I think 2015 had a lot of remasters in it. Had a lot of stuff like that. I am excited for what's coming up. I think an honorable mention for 2015 as far as adventure games are concerned was Tomb Raider. I really liked Tomb Raider. Right. I thought it was really good. I thought it improved on the original. I thought the frame rate was better. It just looked really good.
I'm waiting for the PC port, so I haven't been able to experience it. So don't ruin it for me yet.
Yeah, no.
But
No
I am,
spoilers.
like you, excited for 2016, especially that Final Fantasy VII remake, the various Tom Clancy titles we've talked about. I think 2016 is going to be a great year. But we're running out of time. That's going to wrap us up for this podcast. We are going to release a new episode every Sunday night. Thanks for listening, and catch us on the next one.
Later.